Alright guys, this is going to be the Friday video. I've decided. I got into the car today with 2 videos to make. One was about Bitcoin, which you guys may or may not have already watched, just due to a request I got. But this one might be a little rambly as well. It's just kind of how it is. Whatever. I don't care. You guys don't like the channel, then leave. But if you do like the channel and you're new, consider subscribing. Like the video. Comment down below. Appreciate the support, as per usual. But this video is going to be about modern life and the modern working environment. I've kind of talked about jobs in the past, and I've now been back for about a month now. I've been back in the swing of the 9 to 5. You know, I'm working about 45 hours a week right now, I think. And so it's really just struck me, because I haven't had a 9 to 5 like this for several years. From 2023 to now, I kind of just did gig work, and I also worked for a friend. So it wasn't even close to the grind it is now. It was just kind of it was just like working for friends and doing like short-term contracts to make a little bit of money here and there, but I didn't have to deal with the corporate HR environment that I now have to deal with. And so it just got me thinking about, you know, modernity again, the modern life that we all live. And again, men specifically, this world was not made for us, guys. This world was not made for men. And yeah, the more I'm in the corporate world, like I said, I've only been back in about a month, but I do have over 7 years experience with corporate. Really more like 10 if you count all of my retail jobs when I was like really young. I don't count the fast food jobs because I didn't really have to deal with that. That was when I was like a teenager. That shows you also how the world's not made for men, because when I was younger, I've said in the past I'm a millennial. When I was younger, there really wasn't an HR department like there is now. I remember you used to be able to just walk in and get jobs and just start working the job, and people kind of left you alone. There was like regulations and things like that, but they didn't care when you took your breaks. They didn't care about, you know, sexual harassment, or you could make jokes. Like some of the best jobs I ever had actually were fast food jobs where, you know, I could just like say the N-word to my boss. He didn't even care, you know. You could say the F slur, right? I'm not going to say this on YouTube, obviously, because they'll ban me. YouTube, perfect example. It's a giant HR department. And it ties into the theme of my video. This world was not made for men, guys. I've talked in the past about why the world hates men. It's pretty obvious at this point, because if men start getting together, they can start fixing problems real fast. So the goal is create this modern slop, right? This soylent green reality, where everybody is kind of just ground down to dust. We're all kind of just working these menial jobs, you know, barely paying the bills. This does tie into my Bitcoin video a little bit. You make just enough money to like pay your rent and your food bills and your utility bills, but you don't make enough to ever, you know, thrive, I could say, you know, especially as a man, because like men are really simple. We kind of just want like the family, but women have been turned against us. And then there's also the red pill now, which I've criticized in the past, but the reason I criticize it is because they're also anti-family. So it's like the one thing that would really make a man happy, give a man purpose, would be to have a community and a family. But this world's not designed like that. And it's hell for modern man. I think it's hell for women too, but this is why the whole men will just kind of sit around and play video games all day and, you know, jerk off to prawn. It's because, like, what else is there, right? Another thing that I see a lot of guys do, especially my age, is they just start drinking themselves to death. If they haven't been doing that for the last 10 plus years, a lot of them are starting now. They're getting into like heavier drugs, and you know, it's obviously, I have a Christian perspective, so I don't think anyone should do that. But at the same time, sometimes it's like I can't really blame someone for falling completely into vice, especially if they don't really know what's going on. Now, luckily, we're in a world that is kind of fast approaching enlightenment. I hate to say it that way, but what I really mean is like people are waking up pretty fast to the dire situation we're in with like immigration and men and women and, you know, the fertility crisis, testosterone levels being very low among men, even young men, right? All these younger guys too, they're just like coomers. Like I'm noticing that at my work. It's the weirdest thing ever is everyone is like 10 to 20 years younger than me. And just the things they talk about, it's like they don't have any connection to the old world at all. The only thing that they remember is like the thing they always talk about is like the new Elden Ring DLC, or, you know, the new From Software game. And yeah, like I'm a gamer myself, so I don't really say this to like completely criticize them, but it's like they don't. I'm trying to find a way to explain it, if you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. If any of you guys are readers, serious readers, or like artists, you know, I don't mean in like the cringe leftist way either. Like you've read Shakespeare, or you've actually read Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. You know, you've read C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. Like things like this, it's like nobody reads anymore. And when they do read, it's like, that's another thing. They read like manga. I've never been an anime fan, by the way. I like drawing anime. I've always kind of liked drawing, like you could say back in my Coomer days, I guess. I didn't draw pornography, but I used to draw like beautiful anime girls because, you know, I do like the female aesthetic of anime, but I've never watched anime. I've never read anime. I've never understood it. I think the closest I ever got was I watched the show Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was a kid, just to show my age yet again. And obviously I dealt with Pokemon, right? Like what thing brands the millennials more than Pokemon? Like every millennial was into this. So obviously I fell into those hobbies, you could say. But as far as like watching anime, like I've never understood it, because to me anime was always like a facsimile of something before it. And I've never been into like classic literature or anything like that, but you know, when I first read Lord of the Rings, it was actually after I watched the movies. I remember there was kind of like a sense of, I don't want to be too sacrilegious because I'm not trying to compare this to like the Bible or anything, but there is like a sacredness to what Tolkien created. And it's also everlasting because people still, to this day, talk about Tolkien and how amazing he was as a writer. For the Silmarillion's another good one to read, but he has stood the test of time, you could say. Whereas something like J.K. Rowling, right, to shit on Harry Potter because I freaking hate it anyway. You know, J.K. Rowling, her writings, like, this is something I'm trying to get across. I apologize if I'm like rambling and not making sense, but the reason why modernity is such hell, and I'm going to title this For the Thinking Man, because this is specifically for the thinking man, and I like to think that the people that watch these videos are thinking people. They're not just like normies, and right, like there was that study that came out a while ago where they said like certain percentage of the population, they don't have an inner dialogue. I'm not talking about those types of people. I'm talking about people that actually like have conversations with their shampoo bottles. You guys know the meme of that, right? Like when you're in your shower, when you're in the shower and you're showering and you start thinking about crazy things. And then another joke one is like you're trying to sleep at night and your brain won't shut off. Like these are the kinds of people I'm talking about. Like you're just thinking all the time about, you know, things, right? It is a very masculine trait. And so that's what I'm like referring to. But I'm trying to explain it like what it is that as time goes on, right? And millennials, I'm not saying millennials are some kind of high culture generation either, but as time goes on, more and more of the past is kind of lost. It's like memory hold. It's like it still exists, but like nobody knows. And a good example again is Lord of the Rings. Like the only reason I knew about Lord of the Rings is because there was a movie that came out, but nobody ever like told me about it. Well, now I'm talking to kids that were born before or after Lord of the Rings, like right at the time Lord of the Rings was filmed. These are like the young kids now, the 20-somethings. They were like babies when Lord of the Rings came out, and so they may have watched the movies, but they don't have the same connection. And so they don't read the books, right? And this is like something I've thought about, like why don't they ever make Shakespeare movies? Well, it's obvious. It's because Shakespeare's pretty based. You know, he has a really good story called the Merchant of Venice. You know, I talk about usury all the time on here. Go read that story sometime, and you'll kind of see why they don't like Shakespeare, right? But there's so many things that Hollywood and like the world could be making, but I feel like they're incapable, right? This is what I mean, why it's hell. Like when you're a thinking man and you read and you're well learned, you kind of can recognize what's going on. It's like one of I call it the void pill. It's not my term, but the void pill is where it's like you kind of just realize that like nobody really can relate to you. Like there's people that will relate to you, but it's such a low percentage. You almost have to meet these people intentionally. This is why things like the Old Glory Club, if you guys know what that is, it's a YouTube channel. They're like doing these fraternities. You basically like need to create like men's spaces intentionally to get these kinds of things again. And this is like the curse of modernity, is like what we've lost. Is that we've lost. Again, I feel like I'm not making any sense, so I apologize. I'm trying to word it in a way that I can like get through out of my own brain, right? Because like in my own brain, I know exactly what this is, but I just don't know how to verbalize it. But you can think of it like take the LGBTQ movement, right? There will be generations of kids that will never know what it's like to not have that. You could take something like the civil rights movement, right? If you read history, you know that the civil rights ideology was not the norm. There were people before us that actually knew a world before that. So with each generation, there's like a passing of the old world. This is why I've talked in the past that like as much as I criticize boomers, they also are the only remaining tie to the old world. And after them, it's just people that grew up with the internet in many ways. We grew up in modernity, you could say. We won't know, right? From personal experience, we will not know what it's like to not have a civil rights regime. Now, again, a lot of things are happening politically. Some geopolitical realities are coming to the forefront, you could say. But until that's repealed or changed, or there's like a conscious awakening of people, that is just the reality that we're going to live in. So it's kind of like this, and I'll kind of end the video here. The reason why modernity is hell to the thinking man, and I'll just like project it onto myself here, kind of take some accountability, but you know, if you guys relate, you relate. The reason it's hell is because what happens is you start learning about the old world. We live in a world of crazy propaganda, right? Where like they want you to hate what they want you to hate, and they want you to love what they want you to love. But the problem is everything they want you to love is just so that their stupid GDP green line will go up. So they want you to love modern art. They want you to love LinkedIn. They want you to love slop culture, right? These stupid, degenerate television shows. But if you're a thinking man, you go deeper. You go into the past. You start reading about the things they don't want you to like. And then you realize like, oh, this isn't even that bad. In fact, it's kind of better. Like a good example is they call it the Dark Ages. If you go read about the Dark Ages, though, it was just a time when families and communities had to like rely on each other. Essentially, they call it the Dark Ages because it was before the Industrial Revolution. This is part of their propaganda, is they want you to think that everything before the Industrial Revolution was garbage, and then everything after is better, right? They do this with the Bible too. They talk about how the King James Bible was the greatest thing to ever happen because it happened because of the printing press, right? The printing press, and again, I'm happy for the printing press, but they paint this picture that like before the printing press, life was meaningless. So I'm trying to get at, and so this is like a deep concept. Like I'm even having a hard time explaining it to you, the audience on YouTube. Imagine now you go out into the world, into modernity, and you try to strike up a conversation about this with some like 23-year-old Zoomer. It's almost impossible. I mean, there are Zoomers out there that are pretty smart, but I mean, the average Zoomer, again, they're video coon-brained. That's been my experience. They read manga, and they play Stellar Blade. Like this is the average Zoomer that I've dealt with. A lot of them don't even know how to talk. They just kind of, yeah, man, bussin', totally, bro. And again, I'm not trying to shit on the Zoomers. I'm just, there's plenty of hate that can go towards the millennials too. Every generation has its stereotypes. But what I'm saying is that there is something that did not translate to the Zoomers, right? There was something that did not translate to the millennials. I believe anyone can overcome this doing enough research. I mean, maybe there are certain IQ limitations, right? It'll just never occur to some people. Like I said with the inner dialogue. But if you are a thinking man or woman, I could say, I guess. If you are a thinking man or woman and these things start to occur to you, you might understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to sound pretentious here. I'm not trying to ramble on. I think the people that watch this that get it will get it, and the ones that don't won't. There's like a romanticism. Another really good book is Man and Technics by Oswald Spengler, right? When you start reading about these older books, these older texts, right? There was even a time, if you can even imagine this, there was a time where America was majority white. There was no melting pot, right? Like you can imagine this and take yourself into that reality. And that is what kind of creates the hell of the modern world. For all the great advances in technology we have, we seem to lack the one thing that gives man true satisfaction, and that is spirituality with purpose. By that I mean God. I don't mean like God, I mean the Christian God. And community. We don't have community anymore. LinkedIn is not a community, right? Even YouTube, as much as I appreciate you guys for watching this, you guys don't live in Utah with me. Like, you're not hanging out with me every day. You're not like helping me when I need help or going to the gym with me or whatever, right? That's what I mean by community. And one thing that could come from things like YouTube is you can create a sense of community, but that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that there are people around you, but we live in multiculturalism now. They're not really your people. They're not your community. And then you can just start daydreaming about how it used to be. And I'll just end it with this. I just thought of how to word it. I didn't come up with this, but it's a good way to imagine this, right? In our current times, we were born too late to experience high culture. And what I mean by high culture is, I mean like the Roman Empire or Charlemagne, or like back before the gender stuff, right? Just back when things were like normal. There was suffering, but people didn't talk about genders. So high culture, you could even say the boomers. What the boomers experienced in many ways was high culture because they had material wealth, right? Even though they were being completely brainwashed by Hollywood. So we were all born too late for that. We were also born too soon to see what comes after this, right? Like what phoenix will rise from the ashes, like what the future civilization will be post all of this, right? Like basically like once society comes back to its senses and realize like, what have we been doing all of this time? Like maybe we go to space, right? Maybe we explore the stars or something, right? Humanity gets some kind of unified goal again. Whatever that is, we were born too late for that. Or sorry, too soon for that, I mean. But what we were born exactly in time for, guys, was LinkedIn, Excel spreadsheets, 9 to 5s with computer screens, brutalist architecture. Look it up if you don't know what that is, brutalist architecture. You'll see what I mean when I compare that to high culture. So we were born just in time for the mediocrity. That's our station in life. And that is why it is absolute hell living as a thinking man in modernity. And I will leave it at that. So if you guys enjoyed this ramble, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, comment down below. As always, guys, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you on the next one.